one of the things that I've learned throughout making this film Sunrise, all about mental health, is actually, that we all suffer with trauma. We all have trauma on a certain level.
Yes,
It's either
definitely.
the trauma that, your parents didn't love you enough, or they loved you too much, or, whatever that is, it's just what motivates you to do certain things. And, I've never really spoken about this either, but, when I was a very small kid, I was 12 years old, and I was abducted by a paedophile.
How old were you, sorry?
I was 12. I was 12,
Wow.
and I'd gone out to the supermarket by myself, and I found a video game store, and I was playing on games, and there was a man who followed me, and took me away, and it was obviously an incredibly bad moment in my life, and I actually didn't speak about this moment until about a year ago, where I opened up to my friends about what happened. And I didn't realize that was causing me to have so much self-loathing and self-doubt, and just feel like I wasn't worth it because something that happened to me when I was 12. And I've had therapy, and I've spoken to therapists about it. But the thing is about something as deep as that is that, yes, I can talk about it, and I can talk about it to you and whoever. But I don't believe that the best way out of these traumas is therapy. I believe therapy is good, and everyone should try therapy. You should really try and figure out who you are, what moments mattered and what moments didn't matter. But coaching was the thing that saved me. And now a coach is probably unfamiliar to a lot of your audiences, because, you can get a PT to get you fit. You can get a business coach to help you with the business. But I came across a men's mental health coach who is a man called Ryan Park. And Ryan became my men's mental health coach. And it was hard, man. It was like every morning, 8 a.m. on a phone call. I have to go for runs. I have to eat well. I have to do all the stuff that we all know makes mental health, a thing. Like if you're tired, if you're not treating your body very well, and if you're not gaining further in your life,
Sleep, food, social life,
social life,
love life to an
well,
extent.
actually, so this coach breaks it down to 5 areas, and
Okay.
he calls it alpha, and he calls it alpha because it is a men's thing, and we want men to deal with their problems. So alpha stands for achieving goals, looking after body and mind, protecting the cave, having adventures, and able to serve others. And achieving goals, it's the thing that we all want. It's the making movies for me, looking after body and mind. It's the going for runs. It's the treating your body well. Protecting the cave is all about your income and making sure that you're taking care of the people you love.
Mm-hmm.
Having adventures is the social life, and able to serve others is the way that you can give back to people by volunteering. And what's interesting is that when you break your life down to these 5 areas, you can start seeing where you're losing out. And sometimes, and I say this quite a lot, but it's like, in order to receive, you have to give first.
Yes.
And a lot of people are cursed with the idea that volunteering is them doing something for free. Nothing in this world is free. And when you give to people, you will receive back. So that last A, in the Alpha framework that he taught me was amazing, because suddenly I then realized I wasn't volunteering enough. And I went out and I volunteered for mental health companies or charities. That's where I met a lot of the amazing collaborators that have helped us Sunrise.
You made a really interesting point about giving back to people, and certain psychological studies that I've read have described mental health differently in different places. So we in the Western world these days tend to focus a lot on self-love. And I've even put polls up on my Instagram asking my listeners and viewers. And a lot of the Eastern world, the Middle East and places even like around China and stuff like that, they always feel a sense of responsibility to the community. And they have found that to an extent, there are less mental health problems in those countries. But the reason they say it is because their happiness comes from other people, whereas our happiness can come from our achievements and ourselves. And when you live in a society like this one, which has great benefits, but is also generally described the rat race, it can get depressing very quickly because you can feel unsuccessful. You can feel like your life isn't going anywhere. The weather doesn't help, if we're being completely honest. I suppose the conversation, the dialogue I'm trying to open up with you is, because you talked about that 5th point, do you think as a society here in England and the UK in general, we do need to look after each other more, value our siblings, our parents, our cousins, more than ourselves? Is that something we need to integrate with Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, like we are creatures that have evolved from very small tribes and communities. So that's in our nature to form relationships with groups of people and to survive.
Well,
as
we're going
a
away from
collective.
that, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we live in a very different world now, and that means that you don't have to see anyone ever again. If you don't want to, you can be by yourself. The truth is that like you will very quickly get lonely. You'll very quickly form junk values based on what you see online. You won't have the exposure to good enough people to emulate
Yeah.
and to be a better person yourself. We've also got a big leadership issue in society, is that young people don't see themselves as leaders. They don't see themselves as responsible for their best friends. They don't see themselves responsible for their parents, their community, for their brothers and sisters. They just don't see how powerful you need to be a leader in a community. And so I guess that's the thing, is that if you are selfish and you do it because of your own trauma, you have to very quickly do big things in order to get rid of that, because you just can't go very far alone.
Well, there's that saying, it says the purest form of giving is anonymous to anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I know who I'm helping, how I'm helping, it can kind of dilute the goodness of it. It's like people who might want to be seen fundraising for a charity rather than doing it behind the scenes and not getting any praises for it. That's also a very religious concept, where when you give, you might give to the local mosque rather than to the direct person. And when you do give, you don't announce that you give. So people developing junk values, which was probably the best point you made there, they were all great. I don't want to pin blame, but do you think social media is really pushing these junk values?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's complicated, isn't it? The world
there's
is
never
so
one answer.
complicated,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that we can learn stuff, but to apply knowledge to areas that are so macro and everything big is complicated. I don't necessarily think it's about that. There is, interestingly,
No, let me explain this point, right? So never before have people wanted to be seen and show off more, right? And that could literally include a young teenager in high school, where it's important to be seen doing something, because that doing thing might make you more popular. That popularity might give you attention from a boy or a girl that you like. It might make you more likable in school. And then that translates into more Instagram followers and more friends, you feeling important about yourself. It's not to pin blame on social media, but I think it's helping develop indirectly these junk values, because we're all very conscious creatures. Something I realized a while ago is this phrase, which is, we want to be wanted. And we often fall into the cycle of wanting to be wanted. So if people wanting me translates to my junk values of my Instagram followers, then I want to be wanted via the junk value of my Instagram followers. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a small concept, obviously. Happiness and trauma can often start at home. But I think on a micro level, just on a really small one, social media is impacting mental health.
I don't even think it's micro. Obviously, we spoke about an increased rate of suicide, and social media absolutely has a big part to play in that. If everyone's on it all the time and they're getting their dopamine hit from scrolling rather than doing something good for someone, then they're not living in the real world, and so they start becoming more accustomed to that social media. There's also there was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a very famous triangle of the needs that people have and they need to be met. Maslow, who was a psychologist hundreds of years ago, when he made this graph, the very top need was self-actualization. So to understand yourself, you will have completed it. Well done. You've sorted out your basics. You've got your all that sort of stuff, and now you know who you are. Well, when Maslow died, supposedly he had written that he doesn't want that chart to ever be seen by anyone, which is now funny because it's been republished.
What are the other two parts?
Well, the part above self-actualization is self-transcendence, which is your service to your fellow human. And the idea is that when you have like the Dalai Lama, or you have people who just give back all the time, they are way bigger than any one of us. And it's not even them, because they care for so many people that they have become more wiser, and ultimately they have more responsibility than anyone else.
Who cares for them?
Exactly. Nobody. And as a leader, you eat shit all the time, and you have to accept it. There's one thing when the people that you're taking care of are arguing with each other, but you cannot get involved with that. You just can't. And this is where everyone talks about the amount of drama that people bring to my doorstep that I just don't have to deal with, but I deal with it for them because I'm in charge and I'm a leader. And I'm a leader amongst my friends. I'm a leader amongst, people I work with and within my family, because I've accepted now I have a responsibility to do that. I didn't before, before maybe even the last few years, I've always seen myself as a bit of a victim, tortured artist type stuff like that. And then I guess very recently I was in Colombia editing some of this film, and I went on an ayahuasca retreat. And in this ayahuasca retreat, it's a medicine that you take, and as a shaman, and you go into the spiritual world per se. And I saw myself as a dad, as a father, and I'm not a father as far as I'm aware. I don't have any kids. But the moment I woke up from this spiritual sort of
reawakening,
thing, it was a reawakening, man.
Yeah.
And suddenly I realized that I am a dad, or I'm a future dad, and I've got to start acting like it. Yes. I've got to start looking after my income. I've got to start looking after my friends. I've got to be a bit more honest about who I am and what I can and cannot do for people. So yeah, I guess that's an awakening that I hope everyone gets to go through at one point in their life. Because the moment you don't sweat,
how do you get there? This sounds trippy, man. This sounds like a DMT episode.
It was, yeah. I mean, obviously, ayahuasca is supposed to be one of the strongest hallucinogens on the planet. And so, yeah, I guess.
Let's talk about it culturally. Great. For them, is it a rite of passage? Is it one of them? Because I know a lot of tribes have these certain rituals that people at a young age go through, and sometimes it does involve heavy things, things that make you trip. So, is it a rite of passage? What is this?
Maybe, yeah. I think ayahuasca as a medicine has been used for spiritual things for hundreds of years, but it's a bit more touristy now. Obviously you can go to Colombia and you can
would
go
it
on
be illegal
trips.
Here though?
It would be illegal here, yeah, absolutely.
So allegedly you did this.
Well, yeah, I don't really care. I mean,
I'm just playing. They can't.
The truth is that hallucinogenics have always been used to find oneself, whether it's LSD or mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT. You obviously go and take it in the places where you're allowed to take it, but the truth is once you break the wall, break the illusion of everything you see is real, suddenly you realize anything's possible.
Does it break your ego?
Does it break your ego? I think it depends. For me, it certainly did. For me, it just meant that 99% of the things that I was thinking or doing aren't helping and aren't important, and it made me laser in on the 1% of things that are important. But
then, do you think in 10 years, if you take this again, you will have a similar experience where again you've grown, again the things you're doing aren't as great as what they could be?
I think so, yeah, definitely. But something I've learned through this mental health film is that, and particularly when I was struggling, because I struggled a lot when Sarah died, and then I had to lean on all my friends, but I realized I cannot let those friends out of my life, and that I will do anything for those friends, absolutely anything, and I'll be there to the end because they were there for me to the end. And with that ethos brings more layers of protection for me as an individual, knowing that I come from a community of people that all love me, care for me, and when I have a problem, I can go to them. Now, what I do believe is that people scrolling through social media might be looking for quick help guides or personal development books and whatever. And that's great. You should know all about that. But if you don't have 5 friends in your life that you would trust with your life, you need to go and develop those relationships. You need to go and find people who are very like-minded to you. And if you've grown out of your old friends because, they were your school friends and now they're on different paths in life, so be it. You have to go and find people now that align more with your values as an adult than you were as a child. Because then suddenly you start actually wanting to hang out with them more because they give you good vibes. They give you aspirational vibes instead of people that just because you're best friends, you don't want to hang out with people who are making you worse. But once you start trying to achieve things, you'll find a group of people that want to do the same.